With a changing
This is a
market,
Momentum
investing
Media
success
production.
requires a clear strategy and a track record of performance. If you're serious about building a property portfolio, you need to
Welcome
speak
to the
with
Smart
Lachlan
Property
Vidler and his
Investment
team at Atlas
podcast
Property
by
Group.
investors
As a national
for
finalist for
investors.
2022 Buyer's Agent of the Year, Lachlan and his team are ready to build and scale your portfolio in any market. Whether it's financial freedom or a more secure future, Atlas Property Group is here to guide and support your personalised journey. Visit atlaspropertygroup.com.au to book in your discovery call absolutely free of charge.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm Grace Ormsby, and I'm very excited. I feel like I don't want to make this introduction go too long today because I've got someone in studio, which I don't think we've done for a very long time. Obviously, COVID has been a pretty big dampener on in-person interactions for a while now, and a lot of the time now we can do our podcast so easily via Zoom, and that's generally the way we do it. But I'm very excited today. I've got someone in studio standing across from me, Lindsay Fall. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Grace. Thanks for having me.
The reason that we have you on, Lindsay, is because you have just bought your first ever investment property. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Pretty exciting times. First of all, before we get into the specs of the property and what it actually means for you and all those goals, everything that we're going to get to in a normal Smart Property Investment Show, I'd love to get your perspective on why you actually went down this route to begin with. What pulled you into the frame of mind of becoming a property investor?
Look, I've known a few people who've done property investing, and I know it's a secure asset to get into and something that can support my future. I'm English, so I came to Australia around 6 years ago, and something that's played on my mind a lot has been, will my super hold up when I reach old age? And I feel already that I'm about 10 years behind from average Australians, so I decided to use property investing as a way to bulk it up.
I was going to say that accent is definitely not Australian, but so you're here for good, aren't you? You're a permanent resident. No, you're a citizen now, aren't you?
I'm a citizen now, yes.
Very exciting. So obviously life is here now. Was it weird though, coming over here and because I know that, from conversations I've had with people before, it's a really different ballgame to be involved in property as an investor in the UK as it is to be involved as a property investor in Australia. Was it something that was ever on your radar previously?
Not really. I don't think I knew anyone who was into property investing in the UK bar my landlords. I don't think I knew anybody who had more than one property by person. My parents always owned their property and probably still don't really understand investing as an asset. But yeah, not really. I'd started accumulating money with the goal of buying a property, but not to invest in. That was obviously to live in.
Yeah, how it's just such a different frame of mind, isn't it? So obviously the conversations that you've been having since you were here have obviously contributed to your path to go down the property ownership route. And you're Sydney based, and obviously the property that you have bought is in Perth. Let's go through the specs of that before we go any further. Can you talk us through that property?
Yeah, so it's in suburbia Perth in the southwest. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a large garden and a pool. It's perfect for a family. It's not for me to live in. It's beautiful. It's got a big walk-in wardrobe, lovely bath. It's got a little it's got solar power and a little water storage tank, so it's quite sustainable too.
And why Perth?
Perth, just because I originally wanted to have my first property as having land, and that's going to price me out of most of the capital cities. So I decided to do my first one as Perth on that basis. I
mean, from all accounts at the moment, it's a pretty good spot to be investing close to a city, close to the city centre. You're pretty close there. Everywhere's pretty close in Perth.
Yeah, it's about 17 kilometres. I think it's about an hour door-to-door by commute.
Which much cheaper than Sydney.
Yeah.
And you're investing now, aren't you, because of that?
Yes.
Yeah. So talking through that property, are you comfortable with giving that price?
Yes. I paid that 410K for that one.
And you've settled this week, haven't you?
Settled last Friday, yeah.
Oh, congratulations. So exciting. So everything's already I'm just kind of counting backwards now. When did you initially purchase that property to have that settled?
It was actually mid-July. I got my finance approved early, so I brought settlement forward 2 weeks, I think. So I wasn't actually meant to settle yet for another couple of weeks.
Wow. And did you expect the process to be as quick as it was?
No, not at all. It feels like only 2 minutes ago I was stalling over looking online and actually doing something about it.
How long have you been looking to pull the trigger then?
I only got my finance approved. Well, it's been on my mind for a long time, but I started the process mid this year. I got the finance conditionally approved in June, and then it was just a matter of
pulling the trigger,
doing it. And I buried my head in the sand, not knowing the process for a while, thinking 10 steps ahead of myself. And then one weekend I just went, okay, enough's enough. I'm going to go online. And I started making a note of all the ones which interested me. And then I jotted down how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and how many things I might be interested in. And then I highlighted the top couple. And then I started making inquiries to how do I look at these online? Because that's another thing. I can't just fly to Perth.
I mean, you can, but no, you can't. Really,
not every time I want to view something.
You've got a life.
So as it happened, the first one that I contacted, I think 2 or 3, to see how they went. The first one came back to me pretty quick, and he was willing to go straight into an open home by video call.
There you go.
He only lives around the corner from the property, so he did that. And whereas another agent was less keen on going out of his way for me, he wanted me just to call him on the next open home, which was not until about a week away, and to do it on his terms. So I kind of was really happy to have someone help me in that respect.
It's interesting, isn't it? You don't think about how much the agent experience can actually influence your buying journey.
Oh, hugely. He was such a nice guy to deal with that made everything so simple.
Because it makes, I don't know this part of the story, but I'm guessing that's the one that you ended up going with.
Yeah, he made everything was so simple. Nothing was a problem. He was, I felt like I was going to stall the process by getting the settlement agent to look through the contract of sale, but he was patient and just like, I'm here when you're ready.
There you go. So, I mean, first piece of advice really from this episode then is then to deal with the agents that want to deal with you.
Yeah. They're out there. That I was genuinely surprised at how nice he was and how I genuinely thought the whole process would be a lot more pushy from him into getting an offer as soon as possible, but it just wasn't like that.
We're going to unpack a little bit more of that process in just a moment, but before we do, we'll take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Throughout 2022, we've already seen a huge ebb and flow in the Australian housing market. Property prices increased earlier in the year, but the rate hikes have slowed down price growth over the last few months. Even so, we've seen more new listings hitting the market than we've experienced in recent years. Plus, with many property owners having accrued a significant increase in equity, the market is hot for investors looking to snap up another property that may have reduced in price. To help you find these properties, the team at Pure Property Investment have done all the legwork to identify the top 30 suburbs that have not only shown growth throughout this year, but are also poised for strong capital growth over the next few years. Grab your free top 30 guide to Property Investment Guide today at www.purepropertyinvestment.com.
Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined live in studio with a new property investor, just got her foot on the ladder, Lindsay Fall. Lindsay, just before the break, we were talking about that property that you've purchased in Perth. You managed to bring all the settlement. You brought that forward so quickly. It all seemed to happen in a really short space of time. What was going through your head through that period? Because I imagine when you haven't done this before, and especially if you haven't grown up and seen people, buying investment properties, was it a daunting process at all?
Incredibly daunting. I was always 10 steps ahead of myself. When do I need to get a building and pest inspection done? When do I need to do this? And actually I also had a really good set of mortgage broker and relationship manager on my team as well. And she gave me a call and was like, hey, how's it all going? And I was like, it's not very well at all. and burying my head in the sand. And she just gave me a talking to and was like, one step at a time. Just first thing you need to do now is find a property and everything else will just fall into place. So I just had to keep my mind and be really present with what I'm doing.
And how, I guess, helpful was having that team? Because it sounds like you found the property yourself. A lot of people, when they're looking into state, especially when they're looking into state for the first time, are going to enlist the help of a buyer's agent. But it sounds like you went through that yourself.
Yeah, I just felt like the money that you spend on a buyer's agent might make me lose a lot in equity just my first buy. And I just didn't think it could be that hard. So
did it take much of your spare time? How much time are you dedicating? Yeah. So, that is the, I guess,
the trade-off.
Yeah. That you're not paying someone to do the work, but you're actually having to invest your own time.
Around Easter time, I set myself a schedule and I spent about 1 month just purely reading property investing books, listening to property investing podcasts, immersing myself in it. And the second month, I started looking into areas that I'm interested in, areas of development, things that are happening, and just learning about what Perth has to offer. And then the third month was the month that I contacted the mortgage broker. I was like, this is the month that you pull the plug.
I mean, I love that. It sounds like it was very planned. Do you often, for many aspects of your life, are you operating by that kind of schedule, or was this the kind of thing where you went, I need to put some serious time into this because I'm not sure what's going on?
I knew I needed to learn and to immerse myself into it in order to do it. Otherwise, I will just sit around not doing anything.
Putting it off another week, next month's problem. That's just so cool. I think that's a really good way to sort of hold yourself accountable as well, especially when you're doing it by yourself. Huge, huge achievement to have done all this sort of within, not even 6 months of saying that you were going to do it. Can you believe it even now?
No, I walked around, I think, on the day that it settled, and I was just amazed that I'm a landowner now.
Do you feel like a different person? Has it changed you?
I feel a bit more of a citizen, I'll tell you that.
It's weird how much we tie property and place to that, I guess, sense of belonging, for want of, I don't want to be using a cliche there, but that is a really interesting sentiment to have. Almost like a badge of honour now.
It is. I own property, therefore I should be allowed to vote and have a say in what happens in Australia. It is the Australian dream, I believe.
So, I mean, talk us through that. Since settlement, I know that you've already started that process of finding tenants.
Yep.
I mean, actually, let's go back one little step before that. What was that settlement period actually like for you?
Pretty easy. I gave myself a 14-day building and pest deadline over the standard 7, just in case anything went wrong or say the building person can't get there in time. So we just allowed a bit more of a buffer. When the building and pest was done, that was super quick. They send the report within 24 hours. I didn't dare open it until the next day. I opened it and it was absolutely fine. There was nothing in there that was an any concern.
Such a sigh of relief.
So I then contacted the conveyancer with the report and gave it an outline of what was niggling me, any kind of maintenance work. As it happened, again, the property manager was super nice and did a lot more than he probably was meant to do for me, just in the nature of looking after me, making sure everything goes smoothly. So that was wrapped up without any kind of back and forth or any kind of aggression involved. And then it was just a matter of waiting. So I got the mortgage documents arrived. That's terrifying. This stack of papers that you don't know what half of it means necessarily. So I contacted the mortgage broker. I was like, I don't understand. What does this mean? Help. They spoke to Citi, anything I needed clarifying, which Citi is the bank that I ended up having my mortgage with. Got that all sent off. So that was fine. And
Sounds
then just
like
had
a dream.
Had to sit and wait.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working backwards a little bit here just to sort of see what that, and I guess, it makes sense for us to be starting from the here and now and the fact that you've purchased this property now, but just knowing what your mindset would have been like and the things that were going through your head, I imagine even putting in an offer was a pretty, I don't want to say stressful, but a nerve-wracking process for you.
It really is.
How did that actually go?
That that's the bit that I felt like no one could prepare me for. How do I make an offer?
That's true. Like, I mean, even we probably don't talk about it enough. We need to do a bit of a deep dive, I think, in a future episode about that process, because everyone's got to do it.
Yeah. So luckily from my mortgage broker, I had a draft offer there, and it says subject to building and pest inspection and building subject to finance. So I knew what I needed to include. I just didn't know where to put the number at. And I was worried that if you don't put it high enough, you might be disregarded and not get a second chance. So that racked my brain for a while. How do I know? What are they after? Is there this weird 10% rule? Are they expecting 10% more than what their minimum is? Because
was there a minimum listed price?
Offers from was
okay. Bit vague.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe that's what they're expecting. So I wanted to be taken seriously. So I didn't completely lowball it. So it was offers from 400. I started at 410 based on another property of a similar size selling at 410 a few months ago. It wasn't super recent, but I assumed they must be aware of that one. So that's where I thought I'd start it at in a way that they would acknowledge me as serious enough to engage with.
And then what happened from there?
And then they didn't come back with a counter offer, and I was incredibly surprised.
So you were happy to sort of, you were in the mindset of, okay, I'm willing and I'm here and I can negotiate if needs be because I want this property, and they didn't even need that.
It was the first 410 that was the hardest to know. Do I do 4 or 7? Do I do 4 or 8?
Do you put in some 9s at the end to...
Well, like I was stressing so much of that one figure, and then when they didn't come back, I was so surprised.
So then that was it, like just easy
peasy.
Just make you want to buy another one now?
A little, if it's as easy as that.
I guess the Perth market has been doing pretty okay recently.
Yeah, I read a lot of news stories recently about the low number of rental properties there and the rental crisis that's currently taking place. And as I was going through settlement, I saw that the suburb that I had bought in was listed as one of the most affordable suburbs to rent in. So
you got in ahead of the curve, really, because it sounds like, there's going to be a bit more competition in the next few months with properties like that. We won't divulge the suburb just to keep you on the side of secrecy just a little bit, but very, very cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Very exciting. We're going to keep unpacking Lindsay's story just after the break. See you on the other side.
Have you considered adding Perth property to your portfolio? Momentum Wealth has experts on the ground to help you find the best opportunities in WA. They'll take care of everything from shortlisting and inspecting properties right through to negotiating the best deal on your behalf. And when it comes to managing your property, they have experts for that too. Contact their award-winning team today at momentumwealth.com.au and get your advantage in Perth's property market.
Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined by Lindsay Fall, who has just purchased her first investment property over in Perth. And by the sounds of it, Lindsay, it's been an instant success, this property investment journey, considering you only started really looking into this seriously at the beginning of this year. And we're always hearing that there's never a wrong time to invest in property, but it does seem like you pretty much hit the nail on the head of like, this is the perfect time to get into the market, especially looking over West and the rental crisis. It is kind of gripping across the country, but in Perth particularly so. So how has it been? Obviously, you're not living in there. You're planning on getting tenants in. What's that? That's another new process for you. What's that been like?
Yeah, as we were going through settlement, I put the feelers out just to see what other property managers were like. Had a few appraisals done, had a good idea of what its rentability was. I ended up actually staying with the agent that sold me it. He had a good deal. And once I spoke to him about the potential rent that other people were offering me, he was like, nope, I absolutely agree. Let's up it and let's go for it.
Wow. Okay. So he took on board what they were saying, but was willing. It sounds like you got yourself a diamond in the rough there when it comes to agents.
And the current sellers were so sweet. When he started advertising it for open day, the current sellers went and mowed the lawn for him and made it look super presentable.
Because was it empty? There was no one in there at that time?
Yeah, the current sellers had already moved out and they were already renting it out. So it was those renters that were in it were already vacant by the time.
Okay. Like the gods were shining, like looking
Beginner's
down on
luck.
you, being like, we're gonna help this person out. But yeah, so how has that process been of getting someone actually in
It's
there?
really good. So it settled on Friday, but by midweek he was already doing opens because he had the keys. The sellers had said that was okay. He messaged me on the settlement day to say he had a couple of people he was looking into doing their reference checks that he was interested in. And then I think it was this Monday, he suggested a different one who obviously they were offering $470 a week, whereas I was originally looking for $460 a week.
Amazing. And that was just obviously because the competition is so fierce.
People want in. So they want to be moving in by next Tuesday.
Where had you hoped to originally get the rent to, considering you had dropped $410,000 on the purchase price?
I actually thought it was going to rent around $420. So I was generally surprised that it was going up to $470 because of that rental crisis.
Yeah. So how does that look compared to the mortgage repayments?
Pretty good. It pretty much clears it.
Yeah, which is always helpful. Obviously, then you've got property management fees on top of that. What else has there been, I guess, to consider? Looking at this through a first-time investor lens, has there been much about this process? Obviously, it's a huge learning curve in itself, but anything in particular that has surprised you that no one can really warn you about, or no one did and maybe they should have?
Building insurance and landlord insurance wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. That takes a lot of reading of policies to find out what's different between different insurers. And it's actually quite expensive. I'm hoping that it comes down once I have a bit of a no claims behind me, but I didn't expect it to be as much as it was. But that's probably it.
Good to know. So, I mean, by doing the research and doing your due diligence, it sounds like you were pretty prepped, even though the brain was ticking over 1,000 miles an hour and not letting you, I guess, pull the trigger any earlier. But still, you've done all this in such a short space of time. So, does it make you go, I'm going to do all this again? Have you got that thrill and that buzz and I guess the motivation to pull the trigger for a second time?
Absolutely, but I'm definitely going to have a break and get some hobbies back that aren't researching property for a little bit.
What is kind of your plan then, looking forward? Obviously, we hear all kinds of reasons that people do decide to invest in property, and you mentioned being, needing to top up that super, your future, looking after yourself down the track. So, but what is kind of that ultimate goal? Where can you see property taking you?
Well, my phase one, because it might stop at phase one, is I would like 3 properties by the time I'm 40. I'm 36 now, so I'm looking to get another one within maybe 2 years, and then try and get that third one locked in before I'm 40. That gives a 30-year mortgage, all of them paid off by the time I'm 70. I mean, I might get to those 3 and be like, let's get 2 more, but we'll see how it goes.
And so this is obviously all planned out as well. I'm assuming you've got the initial schedule for actually buying one property, but you've now got a schedule for
I've got a schedule for getting the deposit ready for the next one.
Okay, so then phase 2, would that be?
Phase 2 is whether I want a 4th or a 5th, or whether I need another one to pay off the 1, 2, 3. That's kind of a ongoing thought process. Where do I end up?
And are you looking for capital growth, or is it more just that positive cash flow? What is the aim? Is it to build out the value so you can be pulling out more equity?
It's probably a mixture of both. There's a part of me that would like that cash flow in my later years to bulk up the super, but you could also do that with equity.
I guess just as well, having them paid off in itself means that rent money is coming straight to you anyway. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. And so then is there a phase 3? Is that
well,
it is there. Okay, talk us through that.
The property that I actually bought is subdividable without affecting the main house. So if I get brave down the line, I could build another property on it.
It sounds like, while you've got these plans in place, they're not set in concrete, and they can change a lot, you've got opportunities and options there.
Yep.
How important is having those opportunities and just, I guess, being able to make those decisions down the track? How important is that for you?
Absolutely important. I don't really want to rush into something that's going to pigeonhole me straight away. I like to have options. I like to have plans that I can move into and move out of. I might get down the line and decide I don't want to develop the property and just sell the land for someone else to develop. That's also an option.
Yeah, which can net you probably a good return.
Just on
anyway.
Selling the land off.
So, and I know you said you needed to get some of your life back post property purchase, but does sound like you have just a really sound understanding of the basics of property investing and all those options that are available to you. And I mean, even obviously diversification has to be in your brain, considering you went looking in Perth as opposed to Sydney. Are you going to be looking at, other ways that you can be bolstering that portfolio down the track, or considering how the Perth purchase went, are you going to keep looking there?
It's tempting to remain in Perth as it was such an easy experience for me. But I actually think I might, keep my eye on Adelaide too. And I'm not sure if there's other parts of Queensland, even if it's not in Brisbane, that it might pique my interest, because I'm sure Brisbane can't hold everyone forever. Just like in New South Wales, we have Sydney, but we also have Newcastle and Wollongong. So there's probably going to be some other hubs in Queensland still to come up that might be worth thinking about.
And actually, you mentioned wanting your first purchase to be land with a house on there, and by the sounds of it, that land being big enough to also support subdivision if you so choose. Is that the same kind of approach you're going to be taking?
I actually might try my hand at apartments and units, just out of curiosity, to learn the process. I guess you have different obligations in terms of land tax, land like council rates. Learn that process of paying different things.
Sounds like you've got it all sorted without having it all sorted, and I love that. Congratulations again on that purchase, Lindsay. And by the sounds of it, we're going to have to get you back on the show to follow up on this plan. I want to see this map of those milestones and see when you hit them, because it's going to be pretty cool to watch from afar / close by in studio in North Sydney here at the Smart Property Investment Show. But thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with everything down the track.
Thanks, Grace. I'd love to be back.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. To everyone who is listening along, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. Please like or review us on whatever platform that you do listen to your podcasts on. And if you have any questions, or you might be someone like Lindsay who's just jumped on the property ladder herself, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Get your story out there. You're probably inspiring a lot more people than you could have ever thought possible. And we, especially the women out there who are investing in property, we want to be hearing from you. Editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. As always, stay up to date with us on our website. Subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Check us out on our social media as well, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. Until next episode, stay safe and well wherever you are listening from. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Would you like the latest news and insights in HR, leadership and people management? HR Leader has you covered. Subscribe at hrleader.com.au.